Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our global Nimble and Vengresso community. I am super excited to be here today with a dear friend, Vivica von Rosen. Vivica, say hello to the audience.
Hey everybody, it is so great to be here, especially with everything going on with Nimble. I was like, John's going to cancel. He's got so much going on with Nimble. He's going to cancel, so I'm glad you didn't.
No, no, I'm not going to cancel. But I had a great time with Mark Cuban on the set of Shark Tank
Oh my
yesterday, and
God.
we'll talk more about that later. But
So
let's
cool.
go to the next slide, Viv,
He's my favorite shark.
because I want to talk about you.
Okay.
Um, Viv, what I admire about you is that you teach and preach others about how they can be better, smarter, faster with their brand and their network. And you've been doing it since the beginning. You are the queen of LinkedIn.
Well,
You are
thank
the
you.
king of teaching people how to do that better. And now with Vengresso, you're doing that at scale around the globe.
Yeah,
And besides that, you're an author and a teacher and a preacher. And soon you're going to write a book on one of your famous ancestors. So
that's
uh,
right.
we're lucky to have you here today. And you're going to talk about how to be better, smarter, faster in LinkedIn. But
Yeah.
before you get started, I just want to ask the audience, please ask questions. It's how we all learn. We're going to compile those questions and share those with the audience at the end, and we're going to answer them in between. So please ask questions. Those that don't know who I am, my name is John Ferrara. I basically built CRM and contact management before Outlook and Salesforce existed with Goldmine. Retired for 10 years, raised three babies, got back in the business because I saw that social was going to change the way we work, play, buy, and sell. And I looked for a tool to help me manage those relationships and couldn't find it. So I said, I'm going to go build it, empower people's ability to build their network and achieve their dreams. And that's what I do. So with that, Viv, take us away.
And also, if you don't know John, he's like the nicest guy in the world. And also, if you ever see him at a conference or a trade show, you will get a great big hug. So just,
I,
just putting that out there.
I'm,
John is
I'm
awesome.
a hugger and a crier.
He's it's true. It's true. Well, yeah, so I want to thank you so much for inviting me to be here today. I'm super excited because we kind of revamped the way we've done things at Vengresso. So what we're really focusing on right now is the ability to cut through the noise on LinkedIn to generate those quality conversations. I mean, yeah, our program's called Selling with LinkedIn, and it's all about selling, and it really focuses on sellers and marketers. But the fact is, it comes down to cutting through the noise, right? Because there's a lot of noise on LinkedIn. There's a lot of spammers and scammers. And there's a lot of people who say, well, LinkedIn doesn't really work. I try to reach out to these CEOs and no one's responding, and I can't really generate quality conversation. So I want to go through three shifts today to be aware of that will help you have stronger, better conversations. So first shift is why LinkedIn is still a relevant networking platform. I think all of you know this, but there's some really good stats here. So if there's other people on your team, or if you've got employees that are kind of like LinkedIn is dead, jot some of these down or take some screenshots, because it is still super, super relevant and becoming more relevant. The second thing I want to talk about is mindset. And again, most of you are, here on the call, you probably have a pretty good mindset. But understanding that a huge shift still needs to be made, maybe within your own company, maybe within your own industry, and you might need to be the leader of that mindset shift. So I want to talk some stats around that as well. And then I want to give you our formula, what we used at Vengresso to close many, many, many 6 and 7 figure deals. And it really is, it's a 6-phase process, and you have to do it in order like a recipe, and I want to share that with you today as well. So how to be successful on LinkedIn and social selling. So specifically, and I mentioned this in passing a couple minutes ago, but I've noticed that there are 3 types of people, right? You've got those who see the huge opportunity LinkedIn has to offer, but you're afraid to use it because it's, like I said, it's too saturated, or you believe it's too saturated. You think decision makers don't respond to messages anymore. They're not consistent in their approach, mainly because they don't have a system to follow. So I like to call these people the LinkedIn dabblers. Then you have those who aren't bashful about using LinkedIn, but they use it to send connection requests to connect with as many people as possible. And then as soon as those connections accept the request, they bombard them with sales pitches. Raise your hand if this has ever happened to you, right? And so they're
Many times.
essentially, right? It's so annoying. They're essentially spamming LinkedIn's inboxes, and they're burning bridges, and they're giving LinkedIn a bad rep. So I call these people, obviously, the spammers. And then there's hopefully the rest of you on the call. You're the folks who are using LinkedIn to bring in really a steady flow of new customers and clients. You've seized the opportunity that LinkedIn provides, and you have identified that there are decision makers out there, and I need to create conversations with decision makers. You've even been able to set up some sales appointments. You're making money with it, and you guys are the modern sellers. You just might need to tweak the system a little bit so that you actually get more people in your pipeline and better conversations. And so looking at modern sellers, I ask myself, and we at Vingresso ask ourselves, who are these people? How are they generating a steady and sustainable flow of high quality leads? And how can we replicate this, and how can we serve this up so that other people will do so as well? And so it comes down to what I call the three shifts. So the first shift you must understand is that the LinkedIn wave is just getting stronger. It still is the most effective tool to find and connect with B2B decision makers, and yes, B2C decision makers and government officials, etc. Now, a lot of people think LinkedIn and your profile, though, are nothing more than fancy online resumes, or worse, as we saw, a place where spammy people go to blast connections with messages that constantly pitch their goods and services. But honestly, this is not the case. People are using LinkedIn to connect with high quality leads. They're using it to find peers and professionals, to build relationships, and really to get into conversations with decision makers and to fill their pipeline up and to set up sales meetings, right? So here's some cool statistics. Jot these down or take a screenshot. HubSpot research discovered that LinkedIn is 277% more effective at generating B2B leads than Facebook or Twitter. Like, that's huge, right? There's actually, it's like 620 million users on LinkedIn right now. 44% of those LinkedIn users take home more than $75,000 a year. So, these people can actually afford to buy your product or service. And 80% of B2B marketing leads come from LinkedIn. So again, if you need to convince anyone on your team that LinkedIn is viable, take a screenshot or mark these three things or these four things down. Additionally, 50% of total B2B blog and website traffic is driven by LinkedIn. I think it was either HubSpot or LinkedIn that came up with this. And that's more than Facebook, Twitter, or really other social media sites combined. So that's huge. There's 61 million users on LinkedIn who are senior influencers. And 40%, or 40 million rather, I wish it was 40%, 40 million are in decision-making positions. And for those of you who are in B2B and in bigger companies with longer lead times, you know that it's more than one person making the decision. So that's the cool thing about LinkedIn is you can get in front of, it's actually 6.8 people who make the decision now, right? I don't know who that 0.8 person is. Maybe he just had a bad day. But 6.8 people are usually making decisions in the B2B decision-making process as far as purchasing. So you want to get in front of as many of those folks as possible. This is huge. Executives rank LinkedIn as their first choice for professionally relevant content, above, guys, above news sites, Twitter, Facebook, and it's the most used platform by Fortune 500 companies, B2B or B2C folks. And then 62% of decision makers look at someone's LinkedIn profile when considering who to approach for a sales conversation. And that comes from LinkedIn itself. So if you're selling like it's the 80s and 90s, right, you might be finding it hard to have relevant conversations. Now, again, as we saw, almost all of you are on LinkedIn, so at least you're doing that. But we want to make sure that you're selling and engaging the right way on LinkedIn. So, uh, and finally, and John, you might want to speak to this in just a second, it's not going anywhere, right? Microsoft bought it for 26.2 billion with a B dollars. So it's really Microsoft's way of competing, I think, with Google and Facebook online. LinkedIn's current goal is to have 3 billion users, right? And business people, right? So they're just getting started. So if you're serious about making sales across the country and the globe and getting in front of as many buyers as possible, you're kind of crazy to be ignoring the growing wave of LinkedIn. Now, John, you've got a certain relationship with Papa Microsoft here. What do you think about this?
Well, I think it was one of the most intelligent things that Microsoft has done recently, besides making Satya the CEO who leads from the heart and empathy.
Yeah.
But I believe that people connect with people, and that LinkedIn is the connection network that is one of the legs that your chair needs to be a part of, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And that really brings me to the second point, right, which is becoming a modern day seller. So, what do I mean by this? Well, to make LinkedIn profitable, you have to understand that selling has evolved. And to John's point, it's about being human. We're exposed to between 2 to 5,000 ads a day. Like, I'm probably conscious of about 200, but whether it's on Facebook or LinkedIn, on the sidebars, in our feeds, 2 to 5,000 ads a day. So we have to bring it back to the human relationship. And that's really how how we become a modern seller, is by being human sellers. So to dive down into this, there's really two important components of being a modern seller. Be human is number one. And that really means having a strong, strong personal brand on LinkedIn, because people build relationships with people. Well, whether you call it your digital footprint, your online resume, although we like to say it's not a resume, it's a resource. The one thing is you've got to have a strong personal brand, but that's not good enough by itself alone. You have to have the KLT factor. And this is again where the human relationships come from, right? You want to have KLT, which is the ability to generate a steady flow of high quality leads. And in order to do that, you can't just push people to know you all the time. You can't just push your message all the time. You just can't connect with someone and say, here, buy my stuff. You've got to start having personal relationships. You've got to stop thinking about and pushing your company, your business, and your offer onto these poor, hapless prospects. You've got to create the strong presence on LinkedIn that invites and fosters real relationships at a human level, right? Since the dawn of time, people do business with people. Relationships have been and always will be the key to making more sales. So you as a person, as a salesperson, as a marketer, you need that strong personal brand that they can interact with. And, they buy from people, which means you have to build the like and trust part of this as well. It's so important. So again, some more facts around that KLT factor. It's from our friend Bob Berg. All things being equal, people do business and refer people they know, like, and trust. So step number one, I already mentioned this, 62% of decision makers research your LinkedIn profile when deciding if they want to talk to you. So is your profile active and inviting? And if not, you're missing out on opportunities. 76% of salespeople claim that video helped them increase sales. And 59% of senior executives prefer videos. So are you using LinkedIn native video? It's such a strong, powerful tool. I did a quick video about this webinar. It got 4,000 views and a whole bunch of engagement before, more so than an email does for us. So LinkedIn video, really, really powerful. 82% of buyers are consuming 5 to 8 pieces of content before they choose their winning vendor. How much of your company's content are you sharing on LinkedIn? Anything? If 82% of buyers are consuming 5 to 8 pieces of content, don't you want that content to be yours? And check this out. Only 3 million of the 600 million users are sharing content weekly. But these 3 million people are getting 9 billion with a B impressions. So this is a game-changing opportunity, right? I simply by being willing to create and share or curate even. You don't even have to create your own content. You can share other people's content, right? That's relevant to your audience. By sharing that content consistently, you can begin to leverage this huge wave
Hey,
of being a
Viv,
social seller.
can I reinforce something you just said?
Yes,
And before I do that, people wanted to know what KLT is.
right. Know, like, and trust.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Um,
KLT. All things
yes,
being equal, people do business with people and refer to people they know, they like, and they trust.
perfect. So you just said something that I think that people might have missed, and I just want to reinforce it. And saying this coming from a math computer science major, you can figure that I wasn't that great in English. And so I don't write a whole lot, but I've built a global brand with tens of thousands of connections and followers on a variety of networks
Yeah,
by identifying the influencer of my core constituency in and around the areas of promise of my product. In other words, thought leaders and influencers in and around the promise of my product. So thought leaders in social sales and marketing. That's how you and I met because
that's
you
right.
inspired me. I went into the river of conversations of my prospects. I found people that were sharing content that was resonating with me and them. I started to share it and I attribute the name of the person and hashtag the category accordingly. And basically, that's how I continue to build my brand and the Nimble brand. And that's how you become a trusted advisor. So you become top of mind when they need your products and services. They pick up the phone and call you and they drag their friends. So just wanted to reinforce that. Keep
Exactly,
going.
exactly. And to reinforce your point, and to reinforce the past, 15 minutes or 20 minutes, if you try to do things the old way, you're going to see diminishing returns, lagging sales, and a drop in your business. You've really got to embrace LinkedIn and create a strong brand that's consistent. Whether you're solopreneur, entrepreneur, and you're just building your brand for yourself on LinkedIn, that invites those real conversations. Or if you're, head of a marketing team that's creating a playbook or a template for your entire company, making sure that that branding is consistent, that it's strong, that it's positive, and that it's engaging is really, really key. So to answer, I was getting there. What is the KLT? The fact is people have conversations and relations with people that they know, like, and trust. And if you're trying to sell, I want to make this really, really clear. If you're trying to sell before the trust exists, which is what most people try to do and why most people think LinkedIn doesn't work, then you're not a modern seller, right? And you're not going to generate those high quality LinkedIn leads. So I just, the KLT, know, like, and trust is so important, and it's not going to happen if you say, hey, want to connect, thanks so much, buy my stuff. And we've all seen it, and we all know that doesn't work. I mean, we know it, right? KLT is about real conversations, talking on the golf course, mutual friend's house, coffee or dinner. That's how we get people to know, like, and trust us. And that's where Nimble is. Like, obviously I'm focused on LinkedIn today, But that's where Nimble is so powerful because it allows you to have conversations wherever your network is. If your network's not on LinkedIn, then take everything I'm going to share with you today and move it over to Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or email or whatever. And the power, I believe, of Nimble is that it allows you to monitor, see those buying signals, and then engage with your buyer wherever they are. And I don't know if you want to add to that at all, John, since it is your company after all.
Well, I really believe that conversations start organically in a lot of
Hmm.
places. And ultimately, I think that LinkedIn is a place where you need to bring that connection and to check off that box. But ultimately, I think that you need to bring those conversations to email, to calendar, and then to face, because the more digital we get,
That's
the more
right.
human we need to be. And having that dinner at that speakeasy with you and your husband
Yeah,
cemented our connection, right?
absolutely.
And so I think that these networks are a great place to begin a
That's right.
relationship, but you need to take these relationships into other places and into face to face. There was a question by somebody. They
Yeah,
wanted to know what kind of content is more reaching within LinkedIn. What's the algorithm? And I was going to share with
great.
them, there's a number of different ways to share content on LinkedIn. You could do it in your stream, you could do it in the long form post, you
Yep.
could try to do some long form in your stream.
Yep.
And there's a number of, there's video, there's one to one. And so I was actually in a briefing at Adobe by the LinkedIn team, and
Yeah.
they were talking about this, and they basically said, the reality is you really need to be participating in all of those
All of them.
streams.
Yeah.
But what do you think?
Yeah. So in reality, LinkedIn likes its new toys. So I will tell you quite
Hmm.
honestly, I was promoting another webinar I did, and a new toy that LinkedIn has now is the ability to upload documents, either PowerPoints or PDFs, not sharing SlideShare links, which makes no sense because LinkedIn actually owns SlideShare, but but actually uploading a PowerPoint or a PDF. And so I uploaded a PDF of, actually it was kind of an old infographic we had. It was about a year old. It caught, and this is on the weekend. I'm like, I'll just give it a try. It's the weekend. I got 60,000 views of that infographic. The first time I ever uploaded a PowerPoint, it was actually on this topic exactly, on content for sales enablement. It got over 100,000 views. So if you've got a PowerPoint presentation, a PDF, an infographic, use the upload document now, but don't just do that. The other thing that you want to do, and if we have time, I'll actually show you the present the what I did for this webinar, but you want to use all of the 1,200 characters, and if it's relevant to your audience, you can even add some emojis or special characters in there to kind of make that content pop. Still in just the update section. I'm not talking articles. I'm not talking anything other than that. Just in the update section, upload a document because it's LinkedIn's greatest toy. I'm not saying this is going to work forever. It works right now. The other thing that LinkedIn really likes is its native video. Anytime I do a native video on LinkedIn, I get 10 to 100 times more visibility than just sharing a link to, say, YouTube video or a post. So, native video is still very, very strong. And we saw the stats. People just like video a lot. And having said that, up until this point, I was saying, articles, those long form blog like articles that you see, I was saying those were dead. And then my husband did an article on the 10 reasons on his 10th anniversary, the 10 reasons he liked using he liked not using LinkedIn. He liked working at Oracle. And that thing went viral, and it got over 5,000 views and 68 comments, I want to say. And actually, he got 3 job offers and 2 podcast offers. And he's not a performer like I am. So it was, so I can't say that articles are dead anymore. But I would say if you're trying to get visibility, use updates and use that upload a document, which is the one on the right hand side. It looks like a little piece of paper, and create kind of a mini blog post explaining what the document or the article or the PowerPoint or the PDF is, and that'll probably give you your best results. The other thing I'm going to talk about here in just a bit is making sure, especially as sellers, right? Think like a marketer, sell like a salesperson, that you are sharing the right types of content for your buyers, depending on where they are in the buyer's journey. So I'm going to touch upon it very lightly. I've got whole presentations and stuff on that I can share with you guys, but that is really key to what we do as well. So, so with that in mind, I think I'm going to move on here because I just went off, as it were, off script quite a bit. But yeah, I just want to make sure that we answered that question in full, and hopefully y'all will be able to adopt that. So, as I was saying earlier, it's not just about knowing people and spamming them. It's about creating those real and authentic relationships, which leads us to the process that we've developed on at Vengresso. And by the way, I just want to add here, I'm really good at starting conversations. In full 100% transparency, I suck at closing. So I'm really excited because at Vengresso, our promise is we will get you to the phone call, right? We will get you to the Zoom meeting. We will get you to that face to face. Y'all have to, if you're bad at selling like I am, you're going to have to go with Miller Hyman Group or so what are the other sales training companies? But we can get you the visibility, and we can get you those conversations. Which is why I'm a marketer at heart, so that I'm really aligned with using the right type of content to get those conversations. So how do we do that? How do we get those conversations, those quality conversations at Vengresso, and how do we help you do it? It's with our 6-phase approach. Now, what I want to share with you first, though, is what not to do. And there's like a ton of misinformation out there. I see people using LinkedIn really, really badly all the time. And I know that people are teaching really, really bad practices. So what I want to say is what not to do first. Don't hire a VA to pretend to be you. You can hire a VA to do some of the more mundane tasks that you might have to do on LinkedIn, but don't hire someone to pretend to be you, to automate the process, to get, hey, we'll invite 1,500 leads for you a month, and you'll close 10 meetings, and you'll get blocked by LinkedIn, and you'll have to start from zero. That's the part they don't tell you. So you don't want to hire someone else to pretend to be you, because like you wouldn't hire a VA to go to lunch with someone locally. Oh yeah, and it also violates LinkedIn's terms of service. So don't
Well,
do that.
actually, they track the IP where you're logging in,
Yep.
and if you're basically having somebody do stuff for you, and they're
Hmm.
in the Philippines, let's say,
Yep.
and you're
Yep.
in Texas, and
Yep.
the accounts are going on simultaneously, they shut them down.
They shut them down. And there are so many services, done for you services out there. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're hiring folks overseas to go spam your network, right? To invite people to connect. And once they connect, they spam your network. And it's just a really, really bad practice. Now, understand, we've got an amazing Filipino staff. They're awesome, and they don't do automated messaging for us, right? They're helping us with other things in our business. So I'm not saying don't hire, just don't hire someone to go pretend to be you on LinkedIn, because to John's point, LinkedIn tracks that, like they track automation tools out there, and they will restrict your account. I did I think it was Inbound. I spoke at Inbound, and I got like 100 invitations to connect, and I actually manually went through using Text Expander and responded to everybody, and they limited my account because they thought I had automated the process, when in fact I just sat on a plane for several hours responding to people. So they're really keeping an eye on that. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up, John.
That happens to me on other networks as well.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
basically, if you're busy on the network doing what you do, they think it's a machine, and they gotta
Yeah.
they gotta fix those algorithms.
They do. They do exactly. Even if it's just to like say, "Are you a real?" Pop in those "Are you a real person?" things once in a while. Like, yes, yes, I am. So don't do that, but you do want to do this, right? There's 6 simple phases to this proven process, and it's kind of like a recipe. And just like a recipe, if one of these phases is missing or the order is wrong, it's not going to work. If you put the eggs and the milk and the sugar and the vanilla and bake it, yeah, you're going to have a great flan, but you're not going to want to pour the flour on top after to make a cake. How do I know this? Because I'm a really, really bad baker and I tried to do it once, it didn't work. So make sure you have all 6 ingredients and that you add them at the right time. If you understand each phase and implement them correctly in the right order, then you're going to have that consistent lead flow and amazing conversations with connections. So let's deep dive a little bit into the 6 phases that we have. Now, by now, you probably have heard me say mindset, right? I talked about it at the very, very beginning, and the mindset is understanding the need to be a modern seller. So you already have the mindset because you listened to me for like 10 minutes on that alone. After mindset, you need the brand, right? We talked about it's so important to have a strong personal brand on LinkedIn. So why do you do branding before you reach out and connect? Because if you reach out and connect with someone and they look back at your profile and your profile sucks, you could actually lose business. And it's happened before a lot. So you want to have the right mindset. No, this is what I want to do. I realize it's going to take some time. I realize it's going to take some effort, and I realize the results are going to be phenomenal. I'm going to create the right brand for myself on LinkedIn. And I'm going to give you some resources in just a minute to help you with all of this. And then you want to find and engage with your audience. Now, most people think it should say find and connect, but we say find and engage. And the reason for that is we want to warm up the relationship before you ever invite somebody to connect. So we ask you to find and engage with them. And I'll talk about what that looks like in just a minute. And then you connect with them, right? After that, you want to stay top of mind with them. Build that KLT that I was talking about, that know, like, and trust. And you do that by feeding them the right type of content so that you stay top of mind and continue to nurture those prospects. And all of these 5 stages are amazing and they're great and you need to do them. But if you don't do it regularly, if you want that pipeline and deal flow, you've got to be consistent on LinkedIn. And I think that's the place where most people drop the ball, right? They don't set up a regular cadence. They're not regularly prospecting and engaging. They drop the ball, which means they drop the opportunity to connect and engage and fill their pipeline, quite frankly, with those high quality leads. So cadence is simply a methodical system that you implement. So call it a checklist. Here's the 2 tips to having a strong cadence on LinkedIn. Create a checklist of what works for you and then put it into your calendar, because like the gym, at least when you're first starting out, if you don't have it in the calendar, you're not going to do it. And that's all cadence is. It's a fancy word for just get stuff done. So if you do that, you will have that consistent lead flow. All right, so let's talk about that first phase, which is mindset. With everyone I work with, mindset is the pivot that they have to make. And you're all here right now, so I'm not so worried about you, but take this slide, take a screenshot of this slide and share it with anyone in your company who's not on board, right? You have to decide to take LinkedIn seriously. Stop flirting with it. Stop just being curious, stop just dabbling, get committed. Right? You have to understand modern buyers are out there. They're looking and they're researching more than ever. 62%, as we heard, of modern buyers are researching their vendors. You know how many vendors or people like you, sellers, are researching their buyers? You would think it would be more than 62%, but it's actually only 55%. So our buyers are smarter than we are. Right? So instead of being pushy and becoming part of the noise, as a salesperson, as a marketer, as a business owner, you must make the decision to shift your mindset to create real relationships on a massive scale. And I know it seems silly to focus on deciding, like deciding really that's what I have to do to have a mindset, but it really is. And I'm sure there's a Yoda quote about this, like there is no try, there's only do. And so the waiting for someday, maybe it's not going to happen, and that wave of social selling will pass you right by, right? So you've got to decide to build your brand and to build your business and to build that cadence and to connect and engage with your audience. You have to make that decision. That's number one. Now, number two is really making sure that your personal brand is on point. And if you don't do this properly, then when people come and look at your profile, it's going to look crapola. So you're going to want to create your profile so it's not just an online resume, but a resource. I mentioned that earlier, but a resource for your audience. You want your profile to leverage psychology and persuasion to subtly get people to desire a real relationship with you. And that's actually what's going to attract decision makers to you. Most of my leads now are inbound. I do very little outbound. Chuck, who's on the call, does way more outbound than I do. But it's over time I've managed to establish myself as an influencer, as he's actually doing right now. You should see Chuck's videos; they're so good. But it's really about creating that strong personal brand that attracts the buyers to you. In fact, over the past several years, we've identified over 101 tips and tricks about getting that engagement and real relationships on LinkedIn. So today, let's just kind of look at some basics. First of all, I want you to start thinking about your business brand, your website, your other company social pages, and I want you to think about what visual elements you can pull into LinkedIn from those places. I mean, so many people waste that background space, right? And you've got so much opportunity with that background image to brand your company, whether you're one person or 1,000 people. We just wrapped up a training with 1,001 CenturyLink salespeople, right? And so think about how strong that can be. But even if you're a 5-person team, a 1-person team, you can make your profile visually compelling from the start by getting that background image. And similarly, you want to make sure that your headline and your summary are telling the story, right? You're not, I'm a quota crushing sales guy. Again, actually, Chuck, I don't even know if you could do that, but if you could put that link to that video you just did, is so good. You don't want to be the quota crushing sales guy, because no one wants to buy from that person. I just bought a car, and I can tell you right now, no one wants to buy from that person. Focus on how you help your audience. What's in it for them? Why should they work with you? What can you bring to the table that nobody else can bring? What other people have you helped, right? And when you think about your headline and your summary, who have you helped and how have you helped them? That puts the prospect at the center of your attention instead of you, or the center of the profile's attention instead of you, because they don't care about you yet. They care about themselves and how you can help them. And if your connection's a prospect, they'll immediately start to see what's in it for them, and they'll start paying more attention to you.
Viv, can I add
Yes,
something here?
absolutely.
So we're getting a lot of great questions, by the way. People really
Cool.
dig what you're saying. Um, One of the people said something that this could be a whole topic about stop selling. And
Yeah,
and I really believe that, because sales is a
it
four-letter word.
is.
I think service is the new sales.
Absolutely.
But here's my advice. Stop talking about yourself and your
Yep.
products. Nobody cares.
No one cares.
People don't buy great products, they buy better versions of themselves. Talk about how
Love it.
you can help other people become better, smarter,
Hmm.
faster. And every engagement that you go into, do it with the intent of serving that person, not selling them, even if it means recommending a competitor's product. Because if you
Yeah,
do that daily at scale, you'll be overwhelmed with business.
absolutely. No, thank you. You want to be on my next webinar when I talk about just that? That's exactly right. That's exactly right. No one cares about you. They care about how you can help them.
And nice
And
whoopee
that's the
cushion
problem.
sound, by the way.
What was that?
Nice whoopee cushion sound, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I made that myself
Those are
with my voice. Not any other part of my body. Okay, I'm oversharing now. So So once you've switched your mindset and your priorities and you've developed that personal brand on LinkedIn, oh, which let me give you two resources here. And Taylor, maybe you can type this into chat because I'm going to be busy talking. If you go to www.vengressoebook.com. That's VENGRESOEBOOK.com, vengressoebook.com. We've got like a whole, I don't even know how many pages it is, but it's a free ebook. It's ungated. Like you don't even have to give us your we'd love you to give us your email and name, but you don't have to. And so if you go there, you can get a whole ebook on how to build a really, really strong personal brand. And then if you go to www.vengresso, banner.com, it will actually bring you, it'll take you to a slideshare presentation that has the banner dimensions that you need to create that really strong banner image. So Vengresso. Oh, one S, VENGRESO ebook.com. One S, and then same thing, Vengresso. You know what? I'll just type it in. And then vengressobanner.com. So those two ebooks or those two resources should really help you with this. All right, cool. Next, what do you do next? You've got the mindset, you've got the profile. What do you do next? And of course, the next phase is finding and engaging. Now, we heard already 70% of people have already decided on their vendor before they contact them, right? So do you have a strategy and a system to ensure? I think it's ensure. Is it ensure? Ensure. I think I got that wrong. That you're the one getting contacted, not somebody else, right? That is the number one question I have for you all. You've all been asking me great questions. That's a question I have for you. Do you have a strategy and a system to ensure you're the one getting contact by the vendor and not somebody else? It's an important question because most people don't know how to use LinkedIn like this, right? Instead, what they do is they just go out and connect and hope for the best. Oops, I'm ahead of myself. 2 secrets coming up. But we found that that's, as I mentioned earlier, putting the cart before the horse by being intentional and finding your ideal prospects and engaging them before you ever invite them to connect. You can change the entire nature of your relationship. Let me repeat that. By being, that was my Yoda voice, by being intentional, be you, and find prospects ideal before engaging. No, that was terrible. By being intentional and finding your ideal prospects and engaging them before the connection, you change the entire nature of the relationships.
Let me
So,
reinforce that.
yes. Are you going to do your Yoda impression?
Make it a warm call rather than a cold call. This is actually one of the questions that one of the people said. It's like, how can I improve my connection outreach
Yep,
responses? And the answer is, don't just cold outreach to somebody. Walk in somebody's digital footprint, add value to the conversation, be part of their community. And you know what? You may not even have to reach out to them because they're going to
that's
reach
right.
out to connect with you. But if you don't do anything, if you just reach out to somebody, you haven't walked in the footprint, you have no idea who they are, what the business about, and you haven't engaged with them at all, it's not going to be as effective.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. So here's two steps you can take right now. Again, write these down or take a screenshot or whatever. So first, for finding the right prospects, because a lot of people go, well, my prospects aren't on LinkedIn, and I'm going to tell you that's because you're not using LinkedIn search effectively. So use the deeper search option, and this is available for free. It's better on Sales Navigator, but it's still available for free. If you use that deeper search option, you're going to be able to find the right people. So use, sort by location, by industry, by company, by title, by school, by keyword, but don't just do a search in that top box. Like, click through the additional filters and start using that for two reasons. Number one, you'll get better results. Number two, if you use free LinkedIn, LinkedIn limits, the results that you can see every month. I think it's like 50 a week, or maybe it's 50 a month. Anyway, for those of you who have free accounts, you probably come up against this where you're doing a search and you're like getting into it, and LinkedIn goes, yeah, wait, no, you can't see anybody else. You got to pay for it. So by using the additional fields and filters and something even called Boolean search, which we teach, or you can just look it up online, Boolean, Boolean, you get much, much better results. And for those of you who use Sales Nav, that's probably one of the reasons you bought Sales Navigators, because their advanced search features are so much better. And, and to John's point earlier today, he was saying a lot of people went to Sales Navigator because they lost some great features in free or LinkedIn Premium, and the search is one of them. So make sure that you're using those deep searches so that you're finding the exact right people. And then when you find them, you can, if you're in Sales Navigator, if you're in Sales Navigator, you can just save their account, or save their profile. But you can also save their profile in LinkedIn free by just like literally bookmarking it on Chrome or Safari or Edge or whatever you use. Bookmark that profile and see if they're active on LinkedIn, and then engage with their engagement, right? So for the prospects that are active on LinkedIn, start engaging on their content. And we teach about the best ways of doing that, but really, if someone shares something and they're a good prospect of yours, click through, see what they shared, read through the article, or at least skim through it, pull some of that content back out, go into the comments, respond to them, pull the quote in, add an image. It takes up even more visible space on the timeline. You are going to stand out. You do this a few times, you're going to build that KLT. And then when you reach out to connect with them, right? Number 4, when you reach out to connect with them, they're much more likely to do that. So it's about finding, engaging, and then connecting. Find, engage, and then connect. And of course, once you do that, step 4 is not step 1, and that's what most people are doing. Once you do that, you're going to have a higher acceptance rate, and they're already going to know and like you, and they'll be open to you sharing content with them that will help them to trust you. So, strategy is key. Have the timing down, have the order down. You might want to script some of your messaging as well. We use a cool tool called, I mentioned it earlier, Auto Text Expander. It's a free Chrome extension. If you find you're getting the same, or you're writing the same things over and over again, just pop them into Auto Text Expander. You'll still want to customize your response a little bit, but it'll save you a little bit of time. And once you've got those scripts in place, and you're diligent about responding to people every day, what you're going to find is that you've got more quality leads engaging with you that you've connected to, that are willing to have a conversation with you. So that's absolutely key. The other thing that's key is what we call our two-step referral process. Is what we call our two-step referral process. And a lot of people, LinkedIn actually got rid of the introduction tool, except for on Sales Nav. But you can still see who you have in common. And a lot of people go, hey, will you introduce me, to someone in your network who does this? I'm sorry, I'm not working for you. If you want me to introduce you to someone, tell me who that person is. But we like doing it in a two-step referral process, where we're like, identify who you want to be introduced to, ask first if they're willing to do the introduction, and then write a script for them so that they don't have to think about it, and then ask them to CC you in a second email. So it's really 2 steps. And by the way, you can ask because it's 2 steps, you can ask more than one person to introduce you. So our friend Mike had 100% success rate. He'd been trying to get in touch with these 5 prospects forever, with no luck. And he's a really good user of LinkedIn. We taught him this process. I think Mike's with CenturyLink. We taught him this process, and he asked 3 different people per prospect if they would invite him, step 1, or if they would introduce him, step 1. And only one or 2 people from each person responded, and then he chose the person most likely to do it. And so to the one person who responded, yes, I'll introduce you, he wrote the script, they shared it, he got the calls. 100% success rate. I have a pretty good success rate with this too. So 2-step referral process. There you go. That's your ninja trick for the day. It all comes together. Once you've got those connections, you just want to stay top of mind with them. And that means feeding them the right content. Now, I mentioned earlier, you can curate or you can create content. It's really up to you. If you're in a company that's got a lot of compliance issues, you're going to have to curate existing content. But you can do a YouTube video, or not YouTube, you can do a native LinkedIn native video around that content and share it. Remember, 3 million users have 9 billion impressions, so that's a huge opportunity. 45% of LinkedIn article readers are upper level positions and say it's their best source of content. So you've got to be sharing content. What's a nice little Fooz 5? What's a nice little ninja trick? Find the questions that people ask all the time and answer them. There you go. Ninja trick. Find the question that people ask all the time and answer it in a native video, answer it in an update, answer it in a blog post, and then do it again the next week, and then do it again the next week, and then do it again the next week. And share that content with your audience. Now, what's cool is when your buyer asks a question, they're asking the question from the phase of the buyer's journey they're already in. I think there's 7 phases, but just to make it easy, you've got awareness, you've got consideration, you've got purchasing. So as someone in consideration is asking you a question, your answer to them becomes an answer to every one of your prospects who's in consideration phase. As a buyer asks you a question, that response becomes an answer to every prospect who's in the buyer stage, who happens to be in your LinkedIn network. And then awareness is what we do naturally anyway. So these are really, really powerful tools, and it's not rocket science, right? But when done right, you you become immensely attractive, and your prospects are going to quickly decide that you're the trusted advisor, not your competitor. And then, because I know we're like almost out of time here, it all comes down to cadence, doing the right things at the right time, right? With the right message and being consistent in a systematic way that doesn't suck your energy. You can create daily checklists, weekly checklists, make sure to batch your time on your calendar. But once you've got that system, right, for each step, and you use that system, you're going to find it doesn't actually take much time, probably less time than you're kind of meandering around LinkedIn right now. And as your connections and your relationships grow, your time on LinkedIn will be invested in real relationships, leads, and sales, real and measurable results, instead of like kind of tossing up smoke signals with zero response, right? So the new way, the modern way of selling is what we want you to walk away with today. So there you go. When you do that, you get that, as I mentioned earlier, consistent lead flow, and that makes all the difference in the world. I don't want to go into a sales pitch because I know we're at time, John. So if you're interested in selling with LinkedIn, which is our program that goes really into depth into these 6 phases, you just literally go to sellingwithlinkedin.com, and if you use the code VIV20, you'll get it for $497 instead of 5,008. No, okay. 5,852 is what it's worth. 697 is what it costs today. And if you use code VIV20, that's what you can actually buy it for. So, John, I really talked a lot. I'm sorry, but I wanted to make sure they got all those ninja tricks. Do we have any more questions?
We do, Viv, we do. I'm waiting for the team to send me the Google Doc. But there it is right there. I have the questions up. Do you have a link to the Google Doc, or I could just start asking them real quick?
I do have a link, but if you want to start asking them,
Okay.
yeah.
Do we need a business LinkedIn page and a personal page, or just the personal page of branding of what I do?
Yeah, I would start with your personal page. That is by far the most important thing for you to have, because it's your personal page that has the personal relationships and the personal conversations. That being said, honestly, it only takes like 1 to 2 hours to create a pretty decent company page. In fact, at Content Marketing World this year, that's what I'm going to be talking about is company pages. They're cooler than they used to be. So my answer prior to like January of this year would be like, meh, take it or leave it. But honestly, they're doing some really, really cool things with company pages. So just if you're a solopreneur, live and breathe by your personal profile. If you've got a company of 5 or more, you probably do want that company page, if no other reason than just, just to make sure that you've got that strong brand. But there's other reasons too. So start with personal, but I would recommend the company page eventually.
And I really believe that a company brand is really powered by the team member brands. And so if you're a company, you really want to encourage your entire team to build their brand and start sharing content in order to build their personal brands, which then builds the company brand and it humanizes it as well. And also your company page is sort of ranked based off the growth of employees and et cetera. And so people are going to Google you, they're going to go to your LinkedIn profile, they're going to check out your company page. And my recommendation is if you are even a solopreneur, have a company page because you want to have a presence there.
Yeah.
How do you feel about push notifications to like my company page that's now offered on LinkedIn?
Yeah, it's pretty. So we're having some phenomenal results with that. I wish you could add a personal message to it. That's my only. That's the only thing I find wrong with it. Because you know me, I don't like. You've heard me for now for an hour. I don't like pushing content without an explanation. But that's all LinkedIn lets us do. So I like that they're doing that. If you've got the option, absolutely, it'll grow the following on your company page. But then make sure to actually give them some good stuff on the company page. So similar to your personal profile, you don't want to reach out and ask someone to connect before your profile looks good. Make sure that your company page looks good before you use that tool. But I'm kind of excited with it, and man, we've had a 800% increase in followers, so I likes it.
Here's another question. If I put all my business connections in LinkedIn, how do I take that with me? How do I manage my relationships across and engage with these people? Because the export of
Yeah,
LinkedIn doesn't include email or location
email
or
anymore.
barely any information anymore. So it feels like LinkedIn locks up my contacts. What do you think, Viv?
A little bit. Now remember, you own your contacts, so your company can't say, and you're not working with us anymore, so you have to shut down your LinkedIn account. So you never have to do that. So don't worry about that. But um, to that point, there's this awesome tool called Nimble that allows you to bring your network into your Nimble account. And it's not that you want to find the email address and phone number for every LinkedIn connection, because I got the 29,000 connections, and not all of them are a good prospect for me. But certainly the folks who are good prospects within Nimble, I can now elevate them through tagging and some of the other management features. And Nimble has a feature that will help me find that phone number and that email address.
Why don't you give me the control, Viv, and I'll just show people real
Yes,
quick how they can
good
do that.
plan.
Because I
Okay.
think I think that for me,
Oops.
LinkedIn is one of the many legs on my chair. I think a chair has to have
Exactly.
at least three legs, but some have four or more. And um, and so there's my screen. And so just a little bit about my background. Like I said, I helped invent contact management and CRM before Salesforce existed. And I got back in the business to build Nimble because I believe that we have silos of contacts across all of our companies. That today, as a business, you basically have to choose Office 365 or G Suite as the operating system of your business, which means you need cloud-based email contact calendar and productivity apps in the cloud, and you have two choices, Office 365 or G Suite. The problem is that both of those platforms, your contacts are separate islands for every team member, and those contacts aren't connected to the conversations you're having or the activities that you're driving. And that's just your contact platform. Then if you get into the sales, marketing, customer service, and accounting tools that your business uses, each of them has a separate contact database, and they're all separate as well. And then you get to social, which are all islands. And what Nimble does is automatically unifies all of those contacts for you and the team into a cohesive whole, and then basically enriches them with people and company data, logs every interaction that you and the team have on email, calendar, and social, and then works back where you work. So if I open up an email from Viv, basically Nimble works inside of my tray of Office 365, Outlook, Desktop, Outlook Mobile, G Suite, or inside of the conversations that I'm having in LinkedIn. And so basically, whether you're using LinkedIn Sales Navigator or LinkedIn Regular, basically Nimble plugs in there and you just hover on a name and Nimble will automatically build a record or bring up the record that for that person. And it'll even give you their email. So if you give Nimble first name, last name, company domain name, Nimble will automatically give you the email. And we do that not just in LinkedIn, we actually do it anywhere as you're working. So
That's what's so cool.
you could actually be reading an article and go, gosh, I want to get a hold of Satish. And basically, we could take a string and turn it into a three-dimensional record. And then when you give Nimble the first name, last name, company, domain name, Nimble will go ahead and give you the contact info. And then you can go ahead and save that data. And then that record will end up wherever you want it to be, even if you're using a CRM already. So Nimble can either
Yeah.
be your social sales and marketing tool or work within your existing social sales and marketing tools to do prospecting and sales enablement, email tracking and templating, etc. And so basically, if you aren't using Nimble personally or as a team, you're really missing out, because I really believe that all my contacts in LinkedIn are sort of locked in LinkedIn. And what Nimble does, it gives me the ability to take all of my locked contacts from all the places they are and own them personally, and then take them and use them in my engagement at work. So you can basically take your golden Rolodex and go work in whatever business tools that your company has. So if you're using HubSpot or you're using Salesforce or you're using whatever, Nimble basically will enable you to bring your network with you and add net new contacts wherever you are. And that's basically how Nimble enables you to be more effectively doing modern selling.
That's
So with
awesome.
that, we still have more questions. And
Yeah.
how's your time, Viv?
I think I'm good. Let me just check my calendar. I think I had a meeting, but we canceled it. So
Okay.
I have, oh, well, I have 6 minutes.
Okay. So we still got 131 people who want to learn more. So let's just
Cool.
quickly go through some of these and do the what they call the rapid fire one. Um,
Okay.
if I mention in my invitation to connect that I'd like to share info on how I specifically help the person and they accept the invitation, my sending the aforementioned testimonials is not considered spam, is it? I'm going to answer this, and I'd
Okay.
say I'd say it's still icky if you immediately respond with a pitch. I think that you could say, if I'm going to do an invite to somebody, let's say I was going to connect to you, Viv, and I probably did this at one point.
Yeah.
I'd probably reach out and say, Viv, you inspire me on a daily basis, and I would love to connect, have a conversation, to learn more about you and find ways I could add value. That is a pretty typical outreach that I do. Now, I might get specific about the business or the person
Yeah.
with some areas of commonality or stuff about their business. But ultimately, when I get Viv on the phone, I'm not going to start talking about myself or my
No.
product or my services. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask her some questions. I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let her talk as long as she can. Because if you let somebody talk to you, not only will they fall in love with you, but they'll tell you everything you need to know to find ways to add value. At the end of that, you then offer value. Hey, Viv, I think you should meet Miss Jackson or Brian Kramer or Viv. Have you thought about
Yeah.
doing this with your business? And then that's it. You don't even offer anything. They're going to ask you, "Gosh, I love I loved our conversation. What can I do to help you? Or tell me about you." Then you do that thing, but at no point do you sell. And ultimately, that's building intimacy and trust. At some point, when they do need your products and services, they know what you do and they'll call you.
And that's why you share your not your products and services. That's why you share your content and your expertise on a regular basis through updates, etc. Because you want it to seem like a crazy coincidence that just when they're thinking I need a new CRM or I need to learn how to sell with LinkedIn, oh, there's a native video about how to sell with LinkedIn, and oh yeah, I recognize that Viveka chick or that John dude.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly right. Now we do like what you'll if you invite me to connect, and please customize the invitation and let me know that you were on the webinar with John, I am going to say thank you for inviting me to connect. Totally happy to do so. I'm glad you enjoyed the webinar. Here's some of the resources that I mentioned today. So I am going to share resources with you, but they're free. Well, one's not, but two of them are free, and I already mentioned them on the webinar. But I am going to share webinar, and I'm going to share a video actually. So I like in many cases following up with an invitation to connect with a video.
So, Viv, I know that you're tight on time, so I'm going to make this the last question, but I think this
Okay.
question is really important. So, Candy said, I know about this like, know, and trust
Yeah.
thing, but people cross the line and get too personal after connecting. I want prospects to like and know and trust me, but don't be my BFF. Um, and please discuss how to maintain that subtle and fine line. And unfortunately, we still live in a country, in a world that is less enlightened about
Yeah.
boundaries
Yeah.
and relationships between people. And I know that some things have probably happened with connections with you. Share some wisdom.
Yeah, so especially be cognizant of the nationality of the person that you're reaching out to. Some European cultures, or Indian culture, or other cultures, Middle Eastern cultures, are way less friendly than we are. And so yeah, you got to be really careful. Male female, or yeah, male female relationships, men can come across as being way too um, familiar in some cases. There's a huge lawsuit in England about this recently. So know your audience. Just like you probably wouldn't share poop emojis with a business audience. Don't, hey love, your profile's so pretty. You don't want to be doing that kind of thing. Love that top on LinkedIn, at least not when you start. So that that's a really, really great question. It's really about knowing your audience and knowing what your audience expects. And sometimes, like, my audience knows I'm out there, I'm friendly, I'm gonna give you a hug if we meet in real life, unless you like put your arms out. So know your audience, know what they're expecting of you.
And I think it's important for people to set boundaries and let people know when they cross them
Hmm.
politely,
Absolutely. If you're
right?
uncomfortable, please let people know.
Yeah, let people know because they may not necessarily know. I'm a huggy person. So if I ever go to hug you and you don't want to be hugged, then just say, John, no hugs. So if you aren't using Nimble today, I encourage you to use it. It can be used, it should be used personally by everybody in the planet because you're networking your brand or your net worth. And you're not going to work where you work the rest of your life, and you need to be building that network and that brand on a daily basis. And Nimble will unify all that for you. If you don't use Nimble today, please sign up for a free trial. And if you do like it, you could get 3 months for 40% off using the code John40. Connect with Viv. She's awesome. Look at that
Aw.
smile. Um, and she's helpful. So reach out to her. Let me know. Connect with me. Let me know how I can help you grow. I'm gonna make it easy for you to connect with me. My email is jon@nimble.com. There it is.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you have no excuses. Let me know how I can help you grow. I think we're on this planet to grow our souls by helping other people grow theirs. And you do that by being present with other people and finding ways to add value. And that's what Viv does on a daily basis. And Viv, that's why I love you. And I dig the content today. We have a lot of questions. I'd love to share the questions with you and see if we can
Yeah,
compile that
well,
into a
maybe we'll
doc
do like a
and
blog
have
post or something.
and have answers to it all. I want to thank everybody for taking their valuable time and spending it with us today. And with that, good luck and good connecting.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John. Really appreciate it. Guys, reach out to me. Just let me know you're on the webinar, and we'll connect and have a real
Thanks, Viv.
conversation. Bye, everyone.
Bye.